Hey everyone, my name is Aiden, and over the course of this video, I'm going to walk through how my company, Convenient Catering, made $5,800 in a single day by selling sandwiches to offices. And this $5,800 order, it was just one order for one office, and we fed 375 of their employees. Here's a little photo of that right here. So before we dive in, talk about how I was able to do this and how this process can be easily replicated, let's just talk a little bit about me. So my name is Aiden, and I used to own and run a pizzeria, and we were a little franchise pizzeria. We basically took over the business, and within 2 years, we almost doubled sales from 450,000 to about 850,000. And what we did, the one change that we made was by focusing on catering, right? Because I realized very early on that, look, I can chase individual customers all day long and sell a pizza here, a pizza there, $10, $20. But if I can just cater one office with, 100 employees, that's $1,000 to $1,200 right there. And if I can do that at all the big offices in town, I could very quickly make a lot of money and increase our sales. And that's exactly what we did at the pizzeria. And so now I took all that knowledge, I sold my pizzeria, and now I just run a micro-catering business. Now we're called Convenient Catering. Maybe not the most creative name in the world, but hey, it gets the job done. Our website is also not the greatest website ever made, but it doesn't matter because the business strategy that I use gets my marketing message right in front of the exact people that need it. And what a micro catering business is, this is pretty interesting. This is just selling one type of food, sandwiches, to one type of customer, which are corporate offices, right? In the world of catering, there's really three different areas. There's wedding catering, there's event catering, so like parties, birthday parties, graduation parties, things like that. And then there's corporate catering, which is feeding offices. And that's the only area that we focus on. We don't run any ads. We don't target wedding customers in really any way. All that we do is we sell food to offices. And it's super simple, and it gets the job done. Now, because we are on YouTube and anyone can say anything on the internet, I'm going to show you just really quickly, proof that I did make this happen. So you can see Convenient Catering. That's the name of my company. And if we go into the week of 11/9, I guess this is like 2 weeks, but this is 2 weeks of 11/9 to 11/22, we can see that right here on November 13th, we had an order for $5,837.10. If we scroll down, you can see that, subtotal, the tax, they left a $200 tip, which was very nice. And we just did 375 of our deluxe box lunches, right? So we do just sandwiches, and we do two different options. We do like a build your own sandwich bar, which is, let me show you here in the presentation. So that is something like this right here, where we bring all the ingredients and people build their sandwiches, and then we do box lunches, which are like what we did for this order, right? And so that's what that comes down to. And yeah, you can see we had this $5,800 order the same week. We had a $2,600 order, $2,500 order, $1,600 order, and then a bunch of small orders, right? So yeah, that hopefully lets you know, hey, Aiden, he's the real deal. He knows what he's talking about. So yeah, basically that is it. Now let's walk through how I did this, right? Because you might be thinking, okay, this sounds great, but maybe Aiden, maybe he's some sort of marketing genius and he knows how to run ads super well. And none of those customers you just saw on that screen were landed by running ads. Basically what I did is I have a very simple strategy for getting my marketing message in front of people, and that's by actually going out to their offices to meet them. So the very first step is you have to locate a large office or large offices, right? So probably you can right now, just thinking off the top of your head, imagine 5 or 6 or 10 places in your area where there are big office parks that have a bunch of different offices that could be good potential targets. And then once you locate a large office, or hopefully a couple large offices that are next to each other, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go out and network at that office, and you need to meet the person who actually orders food, right? I'm going to tell you this. Probably 95% of offices out there order food at some point. Some offices are like, we order food every single day for all of our 300 employees, and those are golden opportunities, right? So like, for example, the company that I did this order and fed 375 people for about $5,800, yeah, they have 375 employees coming into the office every single day, and they get fed every single day, right? And if you go out and are networking enough in your area and where you're trying to sell sandwiches to, I can guarantee that you're going to find customers just like this because there are offices all over, and especially in the post-COVID world, there's so many offices out there that are trying to motivate their employees to come into the office by giving them food, right? Because it's relatively cheap, it's easily done, and it's going to get a lot more people coming into the office so they can collaborate and work there. Right? Now the third step is you want to align your incentives. Now, me as a business owner, I of course want to sell as many sandwiches as possible because the more sandwiches I sell, the more money I make, right? And you have to get the food buyer, that's what I call the people that order food at these offices, we have to get them thinking along the same lines. And how we do that is by using a really compelling rewards program, where every time they order, we're sending them some really enticing rewards that are going to get them on the same page and wanting to order from my company, Convenient Catering, all the time. And then the fourth step is to continually reach out until that customer places an order. Because what it comes down to is 99% of people, 99% of business owners, they reach out once or twice or three times and then they give up, right? And that's just kind of how it is. People, they don't want to constantly put in the effort and reach out all the time. But I'll tell you this, from my time at owning the pizzeria, there was one customer that I remember, they needed over 10 letters. I think I sent them 12 letters, once a month for an entire year before they finally reached out to me and said, okay, you're very persistent. I'm going to give you a chance to cater our office. Here's a $2,000 order. And if I had just given up after sending one or two or three letters, then I never would have landed that customer. But that is really the key to this whole process, is by being persistent. So we're locating large offices, we're going out to meet the people, we're aligning their incentives with yours, and then we're continually reaching out until they place an order. And that is a very just, bird's eye view, oversimplified version of how we get these offices to order from us, right? And it's super effective, and it really is a repeatable process that you can easily learn, right? So here are a bunch of the different offices that I've catered. I have relatively few photos of me because I'm usually going out and doing this by myself and I probably should ask more people, hey, could you snap a quick photo of me? But in this case, I have my wife with me, my wife Alana right here, and she just took that photo. This one I took a little cheesy selfie, but hey, gets the job done, right? And then here's when I took my son to do a little order. So it really is a repeatable process that you can easily learn, and it's all about putting in hard work, about hustling, and then about staying consistent. That's really it. Now let's talk for just a minute about why catering is such a great business model. Now the first thing is simplicity, right? We've already talked about this. At Convenient Catering, my company, we run a micro-catering business, which is just selling one type of food, sandwiches. And sure, we sell it two different ways, right? Doing box lunches and doing build-your-own sandwich bars. But at the end of the day, it's just one type of food. And we sell it to one type of customer, corporate catering customers. We don't chase after one-off orders. We don't chase after weddings. We don't chase after events. We just sell sandwiches to offices, and that's it. And the second part, our customers, they aren't price sensitive, right? That is honestly one of the best parts about this, is that these customers, they aren't spending their own money, right? People are super price sensitive when they're spending their own money. And they're like, oh, I could buy a sandwich from Aiden for $10, but if I go to Subway, I could get it for $7, right? Now that thought process would go through a lot of customers' minds if they were spending their own money, but they're not. They just have a corporate credit card, and they have to stick below their $10,000, $50,000 limit every month, and they're just going to swipe that card, and they're going to pay for $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,800 of sandwiches, and they're not going to think about it twice, right? So for customers, they aren't price sensitive. That's what makes this so compelling. The third part is that our product and our service is extremely sticky. And so what that means is we have a lot of recurring revenue. So 99.9% of customers that order from me once, they're going to keep ordering from me because they love how available I am. They love how flexible I am. They love how friendly I am. And they also love the fact that they get rewarded every time they order, because that is huge, my friends. Let me tell you that. If you're able to have all four of those aspects right there, then you can easily start a catering business just like mine. It's going to sell sandwiches to offices, and you're going to be able to get tons of customers because people are just going to flock to you. They're going to love your charisma. They're going to love everything about the business. Fourth part is that we are running a high margin business, right? So we're selling sandwiches, which are very cheap, and we have very low fixed costs. And so basically, 55 to 60% of those sales are going to your bottom line, right? So we have a couple of fixed costs, but nothing crazy. And basically, every time an order comes up, we're going out to the restaurant supply store, we're buying food, we're coming back, we're prepping the order. So basically, of that $5,800 order, about $3,500 of it was pure profit. And so that's a huge number. For one day's work, $3,500. Now, admittedly, in order to make this order happen, I had to work through the entire night. So, I had to put in a significant amount of work to both prep the order, actually make the sandwiches, deliver everything, but even after all that, you're looking at 55 to 60% margin, which means you keep 55 to 60% of how much you're making on the sale, right? Another part that makes catering so amazing is that it's easy to differentiate, right? Basically what we're doing, we're playing a different game. We're not saying, we sell the best sandwiches in town. We're saying we sell very good sandwiches, and we're always available, and we reward you with every order. So there's a book behind me on my bookshelf called Blue Ocean Strategy, and this book walks through the entire idea of what a micro-catering business is, just of course in more generalized terms. And it just says, like, there's really there's two types of oceans out there, two types of markets out there. There's a red ocean, which is where the sharks are attacking all the fish and the water's red because everybody's competing there. Whereas a blue ocean is, basically doing business in a different way, so there's no direct competition. And that's really what you do with a business like convenient catering and any micro catering business, right? You're going out there, you're selling one type of food to one type of person, you're rewarding people in a way that no one else is doing because that's going to make them come back and order time and time again. So it's super easy to differentiate because we're playing a different game. Another bonus to starting a business like this is that you're done at noon almost every single day because, companies that are our one customer segment, they just want to feed employees for lunch. And very rarely, like only probably 2 or 3 times of owning my business have I ever had to do an order later than that. And we primarily have weekends off and you have afternoons and evenings off. So it's a pretty nice business. There's also low startup costs, right? So traditional food businesses like restaurants and food trucks, you're going to have to pay quite a bit of money to get running. You're going to have to sign a very expensive lease. Whereas with a micro catering business, you can get started with $1,000 or less. It's also super easy to scale. And what this comes down to is the fact that customers, once they order once, they're going to stick around. So that comes back to like our having a sticky product. You're going to get recurring revenue. And that's why it's so easy to scale, because every new customer that you land is just going to be, you can think of it as like you're building a wall, right? You're building like a Lego castle. And every piece you stick on there is a customer that orders from you today and tomorrow and hopefully for months and years to come. So put very simply, it's very easy to acquire your first customer and then to grow from 1 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 20, and 20 to 50 plus, right? It's a very easy business model where every customer you land is going to stick around over the long term. Now, I'm going to wrap up this video real quick in just a minute, but I just wanted to invite you to hop on a quick call with me and see if this business is a good fit for your personality and the area that you live in, right? Because this business, it works super well, but it's not going to work if you live in a city with 1,000 people, And there's a couple of other prerequisites that we can walk through and see if both you and the area that you live in are a good fit for this type of business. So if that sounds interesting at all, just check the link right below and you're going to see a link to book a time with me. All right, that wraps it up, my friends. I appreciate your time and I look forward to connecting with you very soon. Take care. Bye.